Josh Hennig hanging out with you live from the Gridiron Pit inside Tropicana, Atlantic City for the opening weekend of the NFL. We will continue the football conversation. Eagles win opening night. Chargers win in Brazil last night.
Great game.
A huge slate of games tomorrow. And the man who's going to be covering all of it for the Associated Press is Rob Maaddi. And he is back with us for another conversation here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome in. How you doing today? I don't hear Rob, so I'm not fully sure what happened there.
Hey, Josh, I'm here. You got me?
There you are.
We got you.
Rob,
nice.
How you doing today?
Awesome. I'm doing great, man. How are you guys?
Doing good. So I appreciate you jumping on. I wanted to start here with the Eagles with you, Rob, because, you were someone who, before you became, senior NFL writer, insider for the Associated Press, you covered Eagles exclusively for a long time, and you know the city very well. And I want to know from you, I think what Fangio did on Thursday night is one of the greatest compliments we've ever seen from a defensive coordinator, because he lost his best player. He allowed 14 points. And it was almost like that scene from Remember the Titans where he's like, don't let them gain another yard. It's almost like Fangio went into the locker room at halftime and said, no more points, because they allowed 0 points second half. I think, Rob, an argument can be made that Vic Fangio is one of the greatest defensive coordinators to ever coach in the city of Philadelphia.
You've had Jim Johnson, you've had Buddy Ryan, Jeff Fisher was a pretty good defensive coordinator, but Jim Schwartz won a Super Bowl, giving up 500-plus yards. Fangio's got a ring, so you got to put him up there, certainly, absolutely. And it was a great job by the Eagles settling in, figuring out what to do once they lost Jalen Carter. Now, of course, Miles Sanders helped him out after he breaks loose for a run, doesn't have enough breakaway speed to get away from Zach Bond, and then fumbles on the next play or later in that series at some point in that stretch. So that kind of helped a whole lot. But I think to be able to go in with a game plan where you've got a guy who's such a game wrecker like Jalen Carter and you lose him the first play of the game, whether it's injury or whether it's disqualification, you're out of the game, you got to adjust. That was an impressive performance and an impressive job. They need some help in that at the corner position. That is a little concerning. CeeDee Lamb dropped enough passes to where had he caught one or two of them, the outcome could have been different. And he still ended up with 7 for 110, but that was on 13 targets. So there's some areas that the Eagles need to address, and they certainly got to figure it out and figure it out quickly, going up against a Chiefs team that is now 0-1 and doesn't want to stare 0-2 in the face in the Super Bowl rematch. So they've got all the incentive to go out there and try to win that game. So I think I don't know the status yet of Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs, but Vic Fangio is going to have his hands full this week. I think the Eagles are in good hands with Vic running this defense, and we'll see what happens. But there were a lot of good things. I sound like a coach. A lot of good things, a lot of bad things, some things that you got to clean up, and that's what's expected, Josh, out of week one, because this is what the NFL is now. When guys aren't playing much in a preseason, they're not hitting much in a preseason, there's going to be some sloppy football. There's going to be mistakes made, and really the first 2-3 weeks of September are kind of training camp preseason extension.
Rob, you just mentioned about who they got to face next week, and that's kind of where I thought was interesting, because the television cameras showed Howie Roseman during the game on Thursday night, swiping on the iPad, making phone calls. I don't think it's a coincidence that less than 24 hours later, Zadarius Smith is in Philadelphia signing a contract. Talk about the addition of Zadarius Smith, because this guy's been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL over the last several years, and the Eagles just basically brought him in with 9 days to prepare for Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm surprised that with such an emphasis on the pass rush out there that Zadarius Smith was even available. He had 9 sacks last year for the Cleveland Browns and the Lions, and he had over 60 pressures, I believe. So he was in the top 10 in all those analytical, like the PFF categories. This is a guy who can still get to the quarterback. The Eagles have done this in the past. Was it Robert Quinn a few years back with somebody that, like, they'll go and target a pass rusher who has been around, a veteran guy who's on the tail end of his career. But in the case of Zadarius Smith, I mean, he's 32 years old. He's been a three-time Pro Bowler. He's had success, almost had double-digit sacks last year. And I think it's just a great move for the Eagles to come in there and add depth to that defensive line. And we don't know the status yet of Jalen Carter for this week. I anticipate he'll be able to play. I think even if there is a suspension, there'll be an appeal, and I don't know if that'll be heard immediately. So I think he'll be out there to play, but it certainly helps to have another guy who can disrupt the flow of an offensive attack and a quarterback like Zadarius Smith. And he, like you said, he's got 9 days to get ready, so you can have him ready to go for obvious pass rush situations and be able to give him limited number of snaps quickly enough to get him out there and make an impact.
Hey, Rob, it's Mike. Quick question about Dallas. Even though we're a Philadelphia-based team here, Dallas is always on our radar. What do you think about Dallas after this first game, for what you thought about going in and what you think about the future of Dallas? What did you see that you liked or didn't like?
Well, I thought going in, it was a clear signal, the Micah Parsons trade, it was that the Cowboys are a rebuilding team. They were a team that's closer to a rebuild than a Super Bowl. They made a move where they got rid of their best player, and that signaled the end of any kind of conversation for them as a Super Bowl contender for 2025. Going into this game, I was not expecting them to be able to keep it as close as they did, to have a lead, to be in position to win. So credit to Brian Schottenheimer for being able to rally the team. You would think it's deflating because there was a lot of expectation that, they'll settle this, Micah Parsons will be out there. And it had to be deflating in the locker room. It had to be something that was just a major, absolute letdown to see him traded, because players don't care about draft picks. They care about the guys who they've been going to war with for several years. And so for them to be able to get together, to rally around that, to go out there to compete hard, and to be in position to win that football game, credit to them. And maybe, just maybe, they're going to be better than a lot of people thought. I still thought they were like a 7-9 win team. I didn't want to give them a double-digit win, somewhere in that 7-9 range. And after the way they played the Eagles, and as closely as they played the Eagles, and as sloppy and the mistakes the Eagles made, and Jalen being out kind of contributed to that too as well. But I think the Cowboys aren't going to be a joke or a team that's getting blown out on a week-to-week basis. Hey, as long as Dak Prescott's healthy, that offense can do some positive things, be productive. George Pickens was a great addition for them. You saw the impact of that against the Eagles on Thursday night. They need a running back who can hold on to the football and not commit costly turnovers like Miles Sanders did. Javonte Williams found the end zone a couple times. So I think this is a team that's going to be more competitive than most thought. Had them in third place and still keep them in third.
Rob Maaddi, senior NFL insider for the Associated Press, joining us here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN, streaming live on YouTube and X in the Dr. Squatch virtual studios. We broadcast live from the Gridiron Pit inside Tropicana, Atlantic City. So, Rob, you mentioned about the Kansas City Chiefs earlier. I got to ask you because, last night, Mahomes did his job, right? Mahomes did everything he could to help that team win, but they just didn't have enough to beat the Chargers. Now, I will admit, before the season, I picked the Chargers to win the division. But is this finally the year Kansas City takes that proverbial step back? Or, Rob, do you think Andy is going to find a way to ramp this team up for a playoff run?
Yeah, I'm not going to count them out until they're out. With Andy Reid, with Patrick Mahomes, like you saw some of the things that Patrick Mahomes did yesterday to try and get that team as far as they can go. That losing Xavier Worthy early in the first quarter was a big loss for them. I was more disappointed with the defense not being able to step up and get the stops when they needed those stops at the end of the game in that fourth quarter. to get the football back. Those were just major defensive mistakes that this team made, and Steve Spagnuolo's got to clean things up. I think that offense, it took them a while, obviously, to get going, and they put up 21 points, and that's certainly not good enough for a Chiefs team that we've known to be a little bit more explosive. But early in the season, first game in Brazil, all of those are factors, and they certainly weren't a factor for Justin Herbert, and they certainly wasn't a factor for the Chargers and their offense, which was dynamic and efficient, and Herbert was just tremendous. And I just feel like the Chiefs need to tighten some things up defensively for their sake. Hopefully, they've got all their players, their playmakers, able to go out there and get back out there. And Hollywood Brown being healthy, being on the field, is somebody who we saw can stretch the field, something that they need on that offense. So I thought that was a big plus, a positive for them. And I'm just not ready at all to count them out. And, I picked them to win the Super Bowl. So you know where I stand on the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
That's okay. They can lose the division and still make the Super Bowl. We've seen that happen before. So we both can be right, Rob. It's okay.
Absolutely. Hey, you weren't the only one who picked the Chargers. I had a conversation with Emmanuel Acho the other day for my new On Football podcast for the AP, and I said, if there's a team in the West to dethrone them, who is it? And if there's a team in the conference, and he picked the Chargers in the West and the Texans in the conference. So there's a lot of people who think the end is here. Not the end is near, but the end is here for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Is that On Football podcast? That can be found wherever we get your podcast, as well as on YouTube, Rob?
Good question, but not just yet. Not till next week. This week it was a little bit different of a format. Went out to the AP's broadcast partners.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because I am very interested in hearing this Emmanuel Acho conversation, because I think Acho is a very fascinating individual when he has a legitimate conversation, not when he's being asked to give 30-second takes on television, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. For sure.
Rob knows. Rob's worked in the business. He knows the difference between the guy who's allowed to actually make his point and the guy who is being told, "You got 30 seconds, go." What was that, Mike?
Yeah. And hey, I'm also a non-player, and I have opinions and thoughts, and I can back those up. So apologies to all the players who feel like if you're a non-player, you can't speak on anything.
Can I just say really quick, as you brought that up, for those who didn't see it, so Ryan Clark tried to make a comment on ESPN's First Take yesterday, and Peter Schrager snapped back at him so strong that Ryan...
To his credit, yeah.
Oh, he deserves credit, but you could see, if you watch the video, and this is where I don't want to rip Ryan, because if Ryan made a mistake, you could see the look on his face. He realized the moment he said it that he shouldn't have said it, So I don't think Ryan, and this is my opinion, I don't think Ryan was trying to be malicious, but this is now multiple times where Ryan Clark has said something that he shouldn't have said. The person who he said it about clapped back on him, and he was forced to retract it. So, sometimes what does the Bible say? Be slow to speak and quick to listen, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to know what was said off the air, because Clark last night during the Chiefs-Chargers game posted an apology for having what he called an interaction with Schrager on the air and off the air. Well, we saw on. We didn't hear what was off. So that would have been cool to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Rob, a couple more before we let you go. AP senior NFL insider Rob Maaddi, at Rob Maaddi on the X platform, at the Real Rob Maaddi on Instagram. We talked about the AFC North before you came on, Rob. I think this is going to be, I know people talk about the AFC West all the time because of the Chiefs, but the AFC North, you could argue, is also extremely competitive. And I want to know from you, how do you measure that division? Because the Ravens might be the best team on paper, but Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers have something to prove. Joe Burrow, we know what he wants to do on the field. And if the Bengals get any modicum of defense, they are going to be in that division conversation. And I think the Browns are going to make life miserable for some people.
Yeah, and the team that I picked to win the division in the North, I also feel are going to lose on Sunday night to the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. It's an extremely difficult division, and Baltimore's loaded with talent. For them, it's a matter of who are you facing in January and can you beat them, because they've had so much trouble in the playoffs being able to get to where they want to go, and that being the Super Bowl. I think the Bengals, if their defense can obviously do a better job than they did last year when they gave up plus 30 points in about 4 of their 4 games in a 7-game stretch or something like that. They've got the offense. They've got Joe Burrow. They're dynamic. We know that they can get to a Super Bowl. They've been there. He's beaten Patrick Mahomes. They've defeated the Chiefs in the playoffs, so they've got that going for them. And then the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. Does he have one last stand in him? I'm going to be interested to see that. I'm setting up the TVs as we speak right now to be able to watch the Bucs on the main and the Jets and Steelers on the secondary, with all the other games on the iPad and the laptop and everything else. So that's where I feel about the Steelers. Like, they make it to my top 2 games that I'm going to be watching in the 1 o'clock segment, because I want to see what Aaron Rodgers can do. And I think they're obviously loaded up to win now. They've got a lot of veterans on that team, and I think it's going to be an extremely competitive North. And the Browns are certainly they're not going to be a pushover. Whenever you have Myles Garrett on defense, somebody who is just that incredible of a football player who can take over games, I think he can keep the defense and create nightmares for offenses to where they can hurt teams and they can be a spoiler oftentimes.
He's Rob Maaddi. Give him a follow on X at Rob Maaddi. Of course, he is AP Senior NFL Insider at apnews.org. And, of course, he is also the host of Faith on the Field, heard Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on 97.3 ESPN. And, Rob, one more time, plug the new show when you're going to have Emmanuel Acho on next week.
Yeah, it's called On Football. It's a new podcast. It might even be a YouTube show for the AP. So we'll have more news on that coming up this week. I have potentially a very special guest this week too, who may make his debut with a new team that plays out of Wisconsin. So definitely we'll be excited if we can make that happen.
What did they used to say on Levitard's show? CC, very intrigued. Rob Maaddi getting landing all the interviews, and he joins us here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule to jump on today.
Anytime, guys. Keep up the great work.